it's 4G is a buzzword now. It's like, does 4G mean WiMAX? Does 4G mean this other technology? Does it mean this other technology? And I honestly think nobody knows at this point. It's going to depend whichever one people wind up embracing.
Right.
And we'll find out. Some of them aren't much better than 3G, but decay more gracefully. So I see them working real good in like the middle of the mountains where there's just no other way to get internet in there. But like back to the cell phone companies, what I honestly wish they would adapt, and I'm here with the throttling back. But I think what they're trying to do is make data undesirable, because I think all of them have realized, even though they don't want to admit it, that the bandwidth on mobile networks is now enough to do voice very reliably. So if you have a good data connection, you don't really need any cell phone minutes anymore.
No.
And a lot of people don't realize this. They're not available direct to the public, but companies can get this. Sprint does data-only plans.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of those for two reasons. A, it's like, just let me pay for the pipe I'm using. And B, the federal taxes on those are almost non-existent. You're paying sales tax, that's about it.
Right.
There's no federal tax. So your $50 bill is $50 instead of $89. And that makes a big difference in people's budgets. I don't think Uncle Sam likes it too much, but that makes a big difference in people's budgets. The other thing is, and they're afraid of that because, let's face it, they've been overselling things for years, and they tried to convince us data is this. I never did understand how a text message that uses far less bandwidth than voice or anything else I'm doing costs 8 times as much. And that's the other thing. There are ways to circumvent that on all these devices, even ones as locked down as Apple's.
Of course.
And it's like they're trying to figure out how to turn bits into cell phone minutes, and I don't think they can figure out a way to do it. So their solution is bits are bad.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that AT&T's, their LTE, is a data-only system where all the calls are now going to be routed over VoIP. So, in theory, every call you make on that new system is going to just chip away at that 2 gigabyte bandwidth, or 2 gigabyte cap, or whatever it happens to be at the time.
Yeah, it's like, rather than doing this is how much data you get, what I would prefer they do is adopt the same thing that your cable and DSL companies are doing. They figured out a long time ago, our pipe is this big. It's different in every area, but their pipe is that big. And they chop that pipe up, and they dedicate 60 to 70% of it to low-speed connections, and then by the time you get to like the absolute high-speed connections, it's less than 5% of the pipe, so you're obviously paying a lot more for it.
Right.
I think that's how the cell phone companies should chop this up. Rather than say, well, this is what 3G and 4G and Edge is capable of, they should go, this connection costs this much, this connection costs this much, and this one costs this much. And you pick the speed you need, and let's face it, most people would pick Edge speed, even though it would take longer for stuff to load, because most people don't need DSL or 4G speeds on that thing. The people who are using the services that need those speeds, and it's not like it's hard to market this to things. I mean, you go to any DSL or cable company, they have a little chart. We recommend this speed if you're doing this. We recommend this speed if you're doing this. Every VoIP company out there goes, this is the minimum speed. Compare this number to this number. If yours is smaller, you need a faster connection. think people are used enough to that, and I'm sure the 4G one would wind up being like a $75 a month bill. I'm sure it would.
I'm sure.
I'm sure. But then the Edge one, unmetered, not unlimited, unmetered, where they just, okay, we guarantee you Y at speed, after which point you may be throttled down for overloading the network, would probably wind up being something like $10 a month, as opposed to the 15 to 25 they're trying to turn. Like, everybody loses with the system they're adopting. It doesn't fix the problem, unless they think the problem is that anyone's using the network at all. But I don't know on that. And I don't think they're ever going to do it. Android was my big hope that they were finally going to do that. But with putting in these ridiculous caps and other things, it's...
Yeah, I think AT&T just caught everyone off guard by rolling out that cap just days before
they caught
WWDC.
They caught everyone off guard, but what's going to be interesting to see is what winds up happening here, because unless AT&T just like loses 99% of their customers for doing this, everybody else is going to follow in suit. And unfortunately, the ooh and awe to this wears off very quickly. It's like when Facebook took away everyone's privacy. Everyone, I'm quitting Facebook. I'm quitting Facebook. I'm pledging to quit Facebook. I think what was it, like 50,000 people I forget what the number was, but less than 10% actually did anything. It's like they got loud, they got noisy for a minute, and then everybody gave up. And I just don't see... I mean, do you see a mass exodus coming to AT&T?
No, not really, because people are already so invested with the iPhone specifically, in the apps, the iTunes store, their music, all the apps that they use every day. They're just so invested with that already, and the move is just so difficult to make. The same thing with the Facebook that you mentioned. A lot of people have so many contacts, they have their pictures, friends, they do messaging, announcements, whatever. On Facebook, it just makes it really difficult. And then in the Facebook situation, I think you have to close your account and you have to not log in for, 2 weeks, 15 days, something like that.
And who knows after 2 weeks if it really goes away or not. That's
right. And I think for a lot of people, they're after a week of, having, a nervous breakdown over what their Facebook friends are doing. They're, oh, screw it, I'm going to log back in and see what's going on, and they're thereby starting the whole cycle over again. So you have to do the same thing to quit Facebook again. I think it just goes back to the whole thing. People are so invested in some of these technologies that it's just so difficult for them to quit. And what's their alternative once they do quit? If that isn't really clear cut, they have no other. At least they feel like they.
Yeah, at least with things like the iPhone, you have alternatives. You have WebOS, you have Android. Android's a good, viable alternative. I'm not. It's got a little bit of ways to go on the gaming side of things, but they've got a lot of the games now. They don't have all of them, but it depends on which game it is.
Right.
Honestly, here's the thing. You'll have like a few seconds to ration this, but what I would love to see is Google convince the people who are both in the Android marketplace and the iPhone marketplace to go, okay, for the next 12 months, if you switch from iPhone OS to Android OS, if you bought the app on iPhone, you get it on Android. Like, we're going to say you have it. Kind of like Steam did with, like, if you bought the Windows version, and they're going to do the same thing when it comes out on Linux. Like, you don't have to buy it again. You own it. We're cool with you.